First thing is attendance. Everybody's here. No apologies. Now, there are a couple of things that I need to read out. Guidelines for council meetings. Expectation of councillor conduct. The Code of Conduct for Elected Members policy sets out the standards of behaviour expected of councillors with respect to all aspects of their role, including the following. Councillors acknowledge the importance of high standards of behaviour in maintaining good governance and therefore agree to conduct themselves in accordance with the standards of behaviour set out in the policy. Councillors are to be respectful in their conduct, communication and relationships with members of the community, fellow councillors and council employees in a way which builds trust and confidence in council. Councillors' actions must not bring the council or the office of a councillor into disrepute. Councillors must treat all persons fairly, must not cause embarrassment, must not cause any reasonable person offence or embarrassment, and must not bully or harass any person. Councillors must listen to and respect the views of other councillors in council meetings and endeavour to ensure that issues, not personalities, are the focus of debate. Councillors must show respect when expressing personal views publicly, and the personal conduct of a councillor must not reflect or have the potential to reflect adversely on the reputation of the council. Pursuant to section 28(3)(a) of the Local Government Act 1993, councillors must not direct or attempt to direct an employee of the council in relation to the discharge of the employee's duties. Pursuant to section 40 of the Local Government Act 1993, the chairperson may suspend a councillor from part or all of the meeting if the councillor makes a personal reflection about another councillor or an employee of the council and refuses to apologise or interjects repeatedly or disrupts the meeting and disobeys a call to order by the chairperson. Meeting conduct. People attending council meetings are expected to behave in an appropriate manner. The following is not acceptable: offensive or inappropriate behaviour, personal insults and verbal abuse. Pursuant to section 41 of the Local Government Act 1993, it is an offence if a member of the public hinders or disrupts a council meeting. In the case of any inappropriate outbursts or derogatory behaviour, an apology from the offending party or parties will be requested. Anyone at the meeting, if they feel offended in any way by any such behaviour specified above, should immediately bring the behaviour to the notice of the chairperson by way of point of order. The chairperson has the right to evict from a meeting any person who is not behaving in an appropriate standard. Also, there's information about the live streaming of council meetings. Please note this meeting is being audio live streamed and recorded on the council's website in accordance with council's live streaming of open council meetings policy. The recording will be archived and made available on council's website after the meeting. While care is taken to maintain your privacy while in attendance at the council meeting, please note that your presence in the council chambers and or voice may be live streamed and recorded, including any statement made during public question time or consideration of planning matters. All speakers ought to refrain from making any defamatory remarks or any defamatory comments or releasing personal information about another individual without their prior consent. Council accepts no liability for any damage that may result from defamatory comments, and all liability will rest with the individuals making those comments. By remaining in the public gallery, you are deemed to consent to being live streamed and recorded. If any person attending the meeting does not agree to being live streamed or recorded, you may choose to leave the meeting. Thank you. Total of contents as is.
Yes, Madam Mayor.
Acknowledgement of country. We acknowledge and pay our respects to the Tasmanian Aboriginal community as the traditional and original owners and continuing custodians of this land on which we gather today, and acknowledge elders past, present and emerging. Do we have any declarations of pecuniary interest?
There's other ones on here.
Councillor Napala and myself will be closed council 3.4. I think it was 4 or 4.3.
4.3 and 3.3.
4.3.
And 3.3.
Yes. And Councillor Andrews.
Open Council 11.2, 24, planning 24 to 0049.
Anybody else? Don't need to. Okay, recommendation, we resolve to accept the following declarations of interest from myself, from Councillor McCullough and from Councillor Andrews. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Do we need a mover in a second? Sorry. Councillor Adams, sorry about that, and Councillor Lambert. And now I'll put the motion. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Confirmation of the council meeting minutes from the ordinary council, Monday the 24th of June. Have a mover and a second. Councillor McCullough and Councillor Andrews. All those in favour? Against? Carried. The date of the next council meeting will be Monday the 19th of August. What's happening here? Oh, it's frozen. I've got nothing. What's happened? I'll just shut it down, then I'll start it up again. Might be a Jeremiah thing. Okay. Sorry. Okay, motions on notice by a councillor. There's a notion on, a notice of motion, Department of State Growth, Longford Roadworks. The officer's recommendation is, the council officers support Councillor Andrews' recommendation. The council immediately steps up pressure on the Department of State Growth via emails, face-to-face meetings, media and whatever other means at council's disposal for state growth to urgently address 1, the dangerous condition of Illawarra Road on the Mill Dam side of the roundabout at the northern entrance to the roundabout. 2, the upgrade of Tannery Road from the roundabout at the northern entrance to Longford to the railway crossing to ameliorate the danger to motorists and pedestrians on that stretch of road caused by the 24-hour heavy vehicle fuel station to be built on Tannery Road next to JBS Australia's Longford site. And 3, the need for bike lanes for safety reasons from the Patina Road turnoff on Illawarra Road along Illawarra Road across the highway bridges through the roundabout to Bishopsburn Road turnoff to avoid cyclists being severely injured or killed trying to negotiate that stretch of road. And the council set up a meeting with the State Infrastructure Minister and Deputy Premier Michael Ferguson as a matter of priority for Mr Ferguson to view the 3 sites to be addressed. Mover and a seconder, Councillor Andrews.
Second.
And Councillor Terrett. Any discussion?
Can
Councillor
I
Andrews?
speak to that?
You can, absolutely.
I come to this motion out of frustration at state growth's response, or lack of it, on a growing number of urgent road safety issues in and around Longford. The latest was too irresponsible to ignore. State growth has granted an access permit to the proponent of the 24-hour, 7-day-a-week heavy vehicle fuel station on Tannery Road with basically no conditions to address the safety issues this will generate. This was despite the council rejecting the initial development application from Lowe's Petroleum, the proponent, on grounds that were all to do with safety conditions for Tannery Road users. Council rejected the original development application because of the serious threat to road users from heavy vehicles turning in and out of the proposed fuel station on an already busy main entrance to Longford. But the proponents appealed the decision to TASCAT, and while council was involved in mediation talks with the proponent and awaiting a TASCAT decision, State Growth granted Lowe's Petroleum the other permit they needed, a State Growth access permit on and off its road, Tannery Road. This is despite council making representations to State Growth plainly stating its concerns. It was also despite a huge outcry from the local community against the fuel station in that location. I want to thank those community members who have taken their objections to all those involved, including Lowe's Petroleum, the Premier, the Deputy Premier, local politicians and decision makers like State Growth. And I thank those still researching options that might temper the dangerous aspects of this fuel station so close to the town. There's a suggestion, for instance, still to be tested, that the EPA should be called to investigate the health and safety of neighbours to the proposed fuel station, including Kingsley House residents and coppers. I believe it's the Council's responsibility to now start a concerted campaign to persuade State Growth to at least carry out the necessary works on Tannery Road to protect road users if the fuel station goes ahead. State Growth also must address with urgency the appalling condition of the roundabout at the entrance to Longford. It's dangerous. And the need for bike lanes along Illawarra Road from Patina Road to Bishopsburn Road turn off to avoid serious injury or worse to cyclists using the road. I hope you'll support the motion.
Councillor Terry.
Just speaking, and I thank Councillor Andrews for bringing this to Council. These concerns have been going on for way too long, and State Growth just has not been listening. In relation to the roundabout, I've written letters to the editors in the Examiner, done representation to all our members of Parliament, and it was only just recently that Phil Goss from State Growth contacted me and said that some works in mid-August. I would like to think that this would be the case. However, I've seen it over and over again that State Growth promise things and it just doesn't happen. They also wrote the concerns in relation to the retaining wall, and the retaining wall is now bowing slightly due to poor construction of that roundabout. These are matters that the community have been raising concerns, and over again we see little to no response from the community. Sticky Beaks Corner is another one which has taken substantial time for getting an answer, and the speed limit on Illawarra Road is another aspect of that. We have a missing link between our two towns of Perth and Longford, and I congratulate the fact that our bicycle committee has said that this is an area that we need as to place as a priority to just make it safe for the average person to get between the two towns if they can. I think the icing on the cake of everything is the 24-hour fuel depot, and the fact that this council voiced some very strong concerns about turning of vehicles and trucks to an unmanned service station or fuel depot so close to a residential area and without any concern or any conditions being put on, despite the fact that this council raised within its planning section in September of last year the need to have a turning bay. I welcome the fact that members of our community have raised various options, including one in relation to looking at the building permit and engaging with the EPA to look at this development. It has been unacceptable that the community is just being ignored, and this resolution is not just for something in the community, for this council, but for the community of Longford. And I wholeheartedly support that this council takes some action because we've been ignored for way too long.
Councillor Goss.
Yeah, I think the council councillor put the motion forward. I think the council's on the table and our council support this motion strongly. But we've been dealing with State Growth for a long time, and they tend to choose not to ignore us a lot and tend a long time. This is the council dealing with them. A long time to get meetings with them. A long time to get them to get on site and look at things. It takes us a long time. The best action that we can possibly take is get the community to engage with the politicians that are directing the State Growth to do these things, and that's the thing we need to do. If you want change, the community's got to address these the politicians that look out for State Growth, because they're the ones that can make this change. Council's tried to talk to them, and it takes a long time for us to get any traction whatsoever. And the best thing we do is get as many people in their community, from Longford, from Cressy, from Palatine, from the Lake Country, to ring up and say that the roundabout that they're using, the area using, is not safe, and they need to do something about it quickly. And that's the thing we need to do as quickly as possible. Thank
Councillor Lambert.
Thank you, Mayor. I support everything that's been said by Councillor Andrews, Councillor Terry and Councillor Goss. And there's one thing that I just want to reiterate, well, a couple of things actually I just want to reiterate. I'm so proud of the community for standing up for this issue. It's such an important issue, and I hope that they keep fighting the good fight, and I know that they will. In Councillor Andrews' notice of motion, at the end she says that the council set up a meeting with the State Infrastructure Minister and Deputy Premier Michael Ferguson as a matter of priority for Mr Ferguson to view the 3 sites to be addressed. He needs to do more than just view the 3 sites. We've done this before with Mr Ferguson along the Devon Hills bike lane, where he came and looked, and to be quite honest, nothing was achieved by that. So I think we need to insist on a little bit more from our Deputy Premier, that he commit to what Councillor Andrews has put here in those 3 dot points, to addressing those things. He needs to commit to addressing, to fix the list that Councillor Andrews has put so beautifully up on the board tonight, not just to come and have a look. He needs to come with some commitments to address these issues. And I hope when he does come that our wonderful community members are going to be there as well to put their viewpoints forward to the Deputy Premier, because I think he needs to hear it from all avenues here. It is that important to our community.
So are you suggesting adding a couple of words in the but for the mover and seconder to consider? Set up a meeting
and to commit to addressing the issues above.
Council, the mover and seconder. Okay, I'll put that recommendation. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Council committee, the confirmation of their minutes. We have 3 council committees there. Councillor Lambert and Councillor McCullough. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Council committee recommendations. Now, from some of our other committee recommendations from the Devon Hills Neighbourhood Watch and Residents Committee, there's a recommendation here. The officer's recommendation is the council note the committee's recommendation and the council officer's comments and the advice be provided back to the committee. Councillor Lambert's moving that. Councillor Terrett seconding. I'll put the recommendation. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Okay, we're up to information. I haven't missed any, have I? Information items. Have a mover and seconder, and then you can discuss them. Councillor McCullough and Councillor Brooks. Okay, Councillor Lambert.
I would just like to speak to the petition that that I received from Mr Harvey and the Perth community.
Sorry, just Councillor Lambert.
I'd just like to acknowledge it. I know that we're going to deal with it. I know we're going to deal with it differently in the closed council with the tender, but I just wanted to acknowledge the fact that Mr Harvey and the people of Perth felt so strongly about retaining the hedge that they put a petition together and in a very short space of time gathered as many signatures as they could before the cut-off date for getting it into the council agenda. So I want to applaud them for that. They feel very strongly about the hedge. It's been part of their landscape since I think approximately 1970, so it's been there for a long time. It's significant to the residents, particularly those along Old Punt Road, and they referred to the fact that it's natural beauty and being part of the existing landscape. They talked about things such as retaining the hedge because it's there for wildlife as well. Mentioned things that there've been weddings in the little area there, so that creates a nice little protection barrier. The hedge itself, I think, should stay, and I think it should stay because it actually protects the area. It protects the residents and the park users from visual vehicle pollution, so the lights and things that come through. It also protects from the wind and the elements. The creates shade in the summertime, so a barrier there for that. And I just think it seems a little bit strange that we'd be considering taking that down, and obviously the community feels the same way. So I think there are many more benefits in leaving the hedge where it is. But I just wanted to, I know we need to talk in more detail about that in the closed council, but I just wanted to acknowledge and congratulate the Perth community for standing up for their community and for what they believe in, and to retain this beautiful hedge as part of the community's infrastructure. So I'll leave it at that for the moment.
Councillor Terrett.
I won't speak too much more on the hedge, but I just want to highlight the importance of listening to our community.
Yes.
And when these things come to, regardless of which community it is within our council area, it is important to continue to listening, not just to the community consultation period, but beyond that. And things are occasionally missed, and we should be flexible enough to continue to listening to our communities.
Councillor Andrews.
Can I ask two questions? One about a matter on page 21 and one on a matter on page 22. Just on 21 on the...
Can I just interrupt you for a second, Councillor Andrews? The first recommendation is about the petition.
Sorry, Madam
So we
Mayor,
had-
we've already got a motion on the table, so we need to sort the information out and then come back to the petition.
Okay, that's all right then. So the mover and seconder is for the information item. That's
Yes.
fine. Yes, Councillor Andrews.
Yeah, sorry. So I just wanted to ask about the Canara Park proposal, 15.2. We're evidently awaiting transfer of documents from the Department of State Growth. Have they turned up yet?
No, there's still waiting.
Right. And on 22, 7.2.2, what stage are we at with the signs on the main entrance to Longford in terms of, are we taking some out or what are we doing about
We're
that?
still waiting for advice back.
On
We
State Road?
State growth, and we've got a follow-up meeting coming up with regards to the Campbelltown Main Street shortly. We'll raise it again at that meeting, which is Monday week. But could be other issues that we could actually raise with the minister too. We have a few outstanding items.
Do we know, are they still insisting that we take out 2 signs to get the entrance sign on the roundabout?
I'll be honest, I haven't heard any feedback at this stage.
Councillor McCullough.
Page 20, item 13.7, Campbelltown swimming pool. There was a review we decided on 24th of the 1st, 24. Have we got an update on that one?
We've actually got we've reviewed the MOU that is to come to the next workshop for discussions. After that, we'll be looking at holding a public meeting with regards to establishing committee.
Okay, before I put the recommendation that council accept the information items, I'd just like to congratulate our youth officer on the quality of the program and the excellent attendance at the programs. Councillor Lambert, you wish to say something else?
Yeah, I had one thing that I
Summing
did
up.
want to bring up in the information items, because I didn't get to mention everything. I wanted to mention the report that Fiona Dwyer put forward for the Northern Midlands Community Expo. I know there's been a lot of communities waiting to see the outcomes of that report. I thought it was a great report. She was very honest about the things that worked and some of the things that didn't work. But I think the crux of it was a great initiative to hold the Community Expo, and that the community really embraced it. There were a few little suggestions of improvement, which I think were really good suggestions. I know that the southern part of our communities would really like to be involved in perhaps participating or having an expo at their end of the Northern Midlands. So my question, I suppose, is what's the next step now that we've got the report? We can see that it was a really good success and there's some things that we could tweak to make it better and etc. But what are the next steps? I mean, are we going to have another one? Because I think the community would really like to see another community expo, whether it's every second year or every year, I'm not really sure, but I think it's something that was really well embraced. So,
Madam Mayor, I think it'd be worthwhile bringing that report back to a council workshop and have a discussion there about what council think perhaps be the way we can move forward, then look at how we can resource that to make it happen. And that may mean that the next I'm doing biannually, and with one being north, one being south, just for discussion at the workshop, see what the opportunities are.
yeah, that would be fantastic. All right. So I just wanted to thank Fiona Dwyer for all the work that she did put in that expo. I know there was a group of them, but she was the driving force, and it's good to get that report finally. So thank you.
Councillor Adams.
There was an issue in relation to that, was whether we could have a directory put on the website from all the groups that were involved, and that would give people in the community access to other groups and whatever. And I haven't seen anything, but that's something we should probably discuss at the workshop. And I think that's my priority. There was one other issue, the 8.17. Longford Library, can I comment on that? I just never got anything from reading the paper from the senior planner on what would the outcome be in relation to, we talked about putting the chute back, putting a chute in, but also doing away with the wall, which is just a brick wall, and making sure it looked like a door where the old door had been, to facilitate, a council building with heritage, that we make sure that we've done the right thing by it.
Well, Madam Mayor, we'll need to actually get the drawings done and actually have that costed, and then we could bring that back to council. Perhaps in the meantime, if council, obviously what we've been advising here is that there's no requirement for an application with regard to the chute, and if council saw fit, we could actually allow that to occur at the same time, finalise some sketches for what the area around that chute could look like, and bring it back to what it probably looked like a number of years ago, because I gather it's just Besser blocks that have filled that doorway up. And bring the building back to what it used to look like.
That's fine, thank you.
Yep.
Okay, I'm going to put the recommendation that the open council information items be received. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Now, I don't know if you wish to move this one, Councillor Lambert. It's around the acknowledging the acceptance. I'll read it out. The recommendation is that council acknowledge receipt of the compliant petition presented to Acting Mayor Janet Lambert by Mr Stephen Harvey on the 11th of July 2024. The petition is relative to the Perth Streetscape Design and Roadworks Project Development Application Approval, reference number PLN 230169, which includes the removal of the hedge between Perth Main Road and Old Punt Road.
Yes.
Wish to move that,
Yes, thank
and
you.
Councillor Terrett seconding. I believe we've had the discussion. I'll put the recommendation. All those in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. Right. We're up to public questions and statement time. Go. Okay, we'll do early. When it comes again.
Happy to do 13.1.
Oh, yes, okay. 13.1. No, we're going to get on with 13.1 first before we go into planning, because we've got a bit of time. Okay, Development Services Monthly Report, and the recommendation is the report be noted. Can I have a mover and a seconder? Councillor McCullough and Councillor Terrett. Any discussion? Any questions? No? I'll put the recommendation. All those in favour? Against? Carried. That's that one. The next one. 14.1. Yes, okay, the next one is 14.1. Perth's Napoleon Street Park Development.
What page is this on?
80. Sorry, I'm going a bit fast. The recommendation is that council note the grant of $127,695 secured through round 2 of the state government's Open Spaces Grant Program towards the development of the Napoleon Street Park, and B, endorses an allocation of up to $300,000 from council's 24-25 reserves towards the project, and C, commits to funding the remaining costs of the project in the draft 25-26 council budget, estimated at $272,305 in March 2024 for consideration. Can I have a mover and a seconder? Councillor Terrett and Councillor Lambert. Any discussion? Councillor Goss.
Yeah, I'm not going to support this motion because I think we should. I'd like to. There was no plan in the minutes of this particular park we're going to look for. We're talking about $700,000 on a park. $700,000 is 116 blocks there, which is over $4,000 per block. I just think that it's, I know we need to have a park there, but I think we've made a park which is going to be just too big for the area. I think we need to look at some way of bringing it back. So I'd like to see this come back to the council in the future. So I'd support it if the move and seconder would include that. Come back and have a look at the plan, see if we can redesign a bit. We had hoped to get, I think it's $300,000 from the state government to support doing the park, which if we had got that amount, wouldn't have been quite so bad for them. But we only got $126,000, $127,000 for the grant. So I think we need to relook at the park and relook at the design and just see if we can get the cost down a bit, because I believe $700,000 for a park, $4,000 for each drilling there is just too much. And I think it's, I can't see what we do. And when we did the design, I mean, we probably didn't have a budget. We just said do a design for what we wanted to do, and we hoped to get the grant funding. We didn't get the grant funding in full, so now I think we need to go back and the sensible thing to do is to go back and look at it and see what we can do just a little bit cheaper. So I'd encourage the movement second to bring it back to a future council meeting so we can actually look at the plan again, see what we can do to reduce the cost.
General Manager, just make a comment.
Well, that's a decision of council to bring it back, but we have had a concept design done and it has been fully costed. Council's aware of that. The community's also aware. It was actually included in the DA process with regards to the subdivision up there. The community's aware that they were hoping for a playground to be built near enough, but not at the same time, through the process of the subdivision occurring.
Councillor Andrews.
Are we hoping that if we pass C in the recommendation, are we hoping that maybe there's an opportunity there to source alternative funding in the time between now and then?
Officers will be continuing looking at funding from now on. If there's an opportunity to reduce council's costs, we'd be looking at every way of doing that. So it's just the works would probably not commence until next year. We haven't, the design hasn't been completed yet and hasn't been documented, and all that needs to occur first. So it'll be similar to the process we did with the Laycock Street Playground, all fully documented out to the community, and then tenders called through a tender process. We wouldn't expect the work to start until early next year.
Councillor McCullough, you're next.
Is this the park that's part of the subdivision? Isn't that the detention pit for stormwater from the subdivision?
Yes.
Well, why are we paying for it?
We're not paying for the detention basin. We're paying for the playground.
That's
This is just the playground.
putting lipstick on a pig, seriously. You've got a detention basin that's part of a subdivision that was integral to that subdivision. They, as the developer, are the ones responsible for paying that for that area, and then you're going to lay $700,000 on top of that.
I'm sorry, what's it you?
Sorry?
I'm not doing anything. Council will make a decision on how
Well, I
they
think
wish to
I think
progress
they've
this.
been misled because this was part of the...
Excuse me, Councillor McCullough, you'll be respectful,
I
please.
am. I'm being very respectful. I believe
Please.
the council have been misled.
And I take exception to that.
Okay,
Council's not
you
being
take-
misled at all.
This is a stormwater detention pit that was part of a subdivision that council required to be built for the subdivision to go ahead. And then you've laid a park on top of that. In my opinion, that should be paid for by the developer.
They're two separate things, two separate items, councillor. This is the playground we're talking about, not the detention basin. Councillor Goss, you
Can I
can...
foreshadow a motion then that, so that it comes back to a future council meeting with a plan and suggestions to how we can reduce the cost in some way for this particular job?
Yes,
and-
I'm going to put this recommendation...
Yeah, if we can't
first.
reduce the cost, well, if that motion gets up, then I'll talk about it.
Okay, I'm going to put this recommendation, all those in favour?
Hang on a minute, which
Sorry.
recommendation, Mayor? Because I haven't had a
The
chance to
one that's
speak
on
yet,
here.
and I did have my hand up.
Yes, sorry, you did. Yes, I've got your name down, sorry. I beg your pardon. I beg your pardon, councillor Lambert.
So
What motion?
No, this is the same one. I did have councillor Lambert's name.
Thank you, Nick, yes. Look, when I first got on council, before I was even on council, there was a need for a playground in that area. And council, we could never quite find the right spot for it to happen. This is something that the community needs and should have access to for their children and their families to be able to go and play and recreate in their own community. I think we've got a great concept plan there. We've got a great plan. Unfortunately, we didn't get as much money from the federal government that we were anticipating, but that's the way of grants sometimes. So, but I don't think our community should be disadvantaged because of that. They've waited, I've been on council, 13 years? They've been waiting a long time for somewhere to take their children to play. The development has opened up now. We've got an opportunity to put a really great state-of-the-art playground there for people to use, and it will get used. That is a growing area. I mean, I can see the work's already starting there. It won't be long, the houses will be popping up and the community will be so grateful that we've been able to secure some funding and be able to put some money towards building a really great space for people. I think that the people of Perth actually deserve this. That side of Perth has never really had anywhere to go. And it's a growing area. I fully support the park going in, and I fully support the motion. And I think the community will thank us for it because it's going to be a great asset to the community.
Okay, there are a couple of councillors who wish to speak and haven't spoken yet. It's Councillor Terrett.
That would actually close it off. I'm happy to.
I thought he seconded the motion.
Yes, but he hasn't spoken yet.
I move the motion, and that will close off the debate.
No.
There are some other, okay, Councillor Adams then, and Councillor.
Point of order.
Point.
Councillor Adams using the F word in the meeting.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't hear it. I asked for if that was the case, I asked for an apology.
I apologise if I offended anybody.
You did
Right.
offend me, Councillor Adams, using the F
Okay,
word.
that's the end of it at the moment. Councillor Adams, do you wish to speak?
Yes, I do, thank you. I wanted to support the motion that's before council. This subdivision's been around for a long time, and it was always intended to build the playground, and the blocks were made available. There is a retention basin as a part of it, but that's only a part of the playground, and that'll be used maybe for one day, maybe once a year, maybe every 2 years or whatever, we don't know. But it's there. But the rest of the playground is an essential part of the future. I think there's 120 houses and blocks to be built here. Therefore, those the playground is essential for the kids that are going to be in that area and for the families. So I certainly support it. I don't see any reason why we shouldn't be supporting it. And it's a part of this development, and it's a part of that we can make a good contribution to. And it's certainly an area which is for a long time, the other houses in that area and the other families haven't had a playground on that side of the railway line. So my full support.
Thank you, Councillor Adams. Just remind councillors, please be respectful, everybody. Councillor Terrett, you wish to sum up?
Yes, it's just not reiterating some of the comments by Councillor Lambert. A park is needed in that area. 700,000 is a lot of money. Council has spent over 500,000 for the Lakeoff Park down the road. This community has no other play area except for going over towards Main Street and the railway park there. I would have liked to have seen some contribution by the developer into this, and it really highlights why the developer should actually give some money for this, and maybe we might be able to reapproach that company for a donation. But regardless, this is an essential park, not just for those new houses in this development, but those in the surrounding areas of Cromwell Street, Phillip Street, and the growing area, hopefully a development later on around Drummond Street and other areas. It will be a good catchment for people to be able to push their young children or walk their young children up to play equipment in a safe area.
Thank you. I'll put the recommendation. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Councillor McCullough and Councillor Goss against. The motion's carried. Okay, we'll go back to planning and public. It's actually public not question so much, public statement time. Let me set that out. Is there any member of the public here who wishes to make a statement about something that's nothing to do with planning. Mr. Izzard, yes. You
Because
have
the
3
planning
minutes.
issue is dead on the fuel depot. Can I speak now?
Yes.
Thank you. This is a heartfelt plea to the Mayor and Councillors to become seriously involved in the Longford community's strenuous opposition to the proposed fuel depot. We, and I include Annette and Rob Anglesey, Neil Tubb, and 100 residents endeavouring to fight this development since the council refused the permit last year. We have, Councillor Goss, written to council extensively, studied all pertaining legislation, held a protest meeting, printed posters, challenged developers, lodged requests for information from state growth, held meetings with state parliamentarians, sought information from TASCAT, the TASCAT registrar, organised Channel 7 to cover the protest event, submitted a friend of the court argument to TASCAT, organised ABC radio coverage, gathered petitions, sought engineering advice regarding the Longford Levy Bank, sought intervention by the Commonwealth Government regarding the 40 workers, Pacific Island workers living in Kingsley House, sought opinions regarding TAS WorkSafe issues, sought council intervention regarding the EPA, and briefed Hobart King's Council. We have identified state growth as the main impediment to stop this development. State growth have a conflict of interest which really should be challenged in the court. And that conflict is that state growth, as part of its policy, is to take away planning and reduce the number of councils and are generally interfering with the operation of local government in Tasmania. If the building permit isn't issued prior to Parliament sitting, we are seeking a select committee to investigate state growth and all of the operations and events surrounding this fuel depot. So we really sincerely hope that council will get behind this in a very strong and enthusiastic manner, because it's one of the great tragedies that this horrific fuel depot is going to be inflicted on Longford. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Is there any other member of the community who wishes to make a statement? Just give your name and address.
Lucy from Longford.
You've got 3 minutes.
I would like to speak on two matters this evening. Firstly, Councillor Andrews' motion regarding the Department of State Growth. Thank you to both Councillor Andrews for tabling the motion and Council in supporting it. As already discussed, Council and the Longford community have been lobbying the Department of State Growth on many roadworks and safety issues over several years in some cases, with little to no action at all from the department and often without even a response. Many of these issues involve major safety and traffic concerns. The appalling condition of the road surface on the north side of Longford roundabout. Lions MP Tabitha Badger has stated she receives more complaints about our roundabout than any other issue in the electorate, yet no action from the department. The urgent need for bike lanes and pedestrian bridge from Bettina Road into Longford. Council and the community know we cannot wait until someone is killed before this serious issue is addressed. Our pleas fall on deaf ears at the Department of State Growth. We are still waiting on a report and action on the safety and traffic concerns at Sticky Beaks Corner. We've asked that stop signs be installed as an interim measure to alert drivers to the need for care on the corner. The response from State Growth, no. The need for a pedestrian crossing or improvements to pedestrian refuges on Wellington Street, particularly outside the library, and to access the Village Green and Memorial Hall. Our primary school students and elderly residents can no longer visit these areas as it is unsafe to cross the road. The response from State Growth? No, not needed. A reduction to speed limits in the town? Usually no. Yet a private interstate fuel company, Lowe's Petroleum BP, wishing to install a 24-hour truck fuel depot for B-double trucks on a small site that only allows for a single driveway entry and exit onto narrow Tannery Road receives a yes and a permit from the Department of State Growth within 6 months, a permit devoid of the requirement for any roadworks to be carried out. And yes, despite the fact that State Growth stated in a letter to Council on 6 September 2023 that the requirement for a channellised right-turn facility is triggered, but a minimum treatment of road widening to the southbound traffic lane, i.e. a bar, needs to be provided. Questions need to be asked and answers demanded. How and why was a permit granted to a private fuel company in a very short time frame without any of the roadwork requirements as stated by State Growth initially? Why has the Department of State Growth favoured the fuel company ahead of the safety of road users and pedestrians or the traffic issues in Longford in this matter, and continues to ignore other major roads issues? Why is this truck fuel depot in the entrance to Longford even being entertained by our state government? Consecutive governments have spent hundreds of millions of dollars bypassing towns throughout Tasmania for safety and traffic reasons, but suddenly it's okay to invite more heavy trucks into Longford. Why? The fuel depot should be in an appropriate location on Illawarra Road, or better still, the Midland Highway. Further to the truck fuel depot, I support John Izard's stand that the EPA should be required to supply a report before a building permit is issued, at least regarding the application in terms of lighting, safety requirements, the nearby residential accommodation, etc. And any restrictions should be applied. And can I just quickly say I'd like to thank Council for listening to the Longford community by rescinding the decision to build a concrete footpath on the old levy pathway, retaining to the ambience and rural outlook of this walk for years to come.
Thank you.
And ask that you support the alternative option. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other member of the community who wish to make a statement about anything that's not to do with our planning items? Okay, we'll move into planning. Councillor McCullough and Councillor Adams, you're seconding to move into planning? Yes. Sorry, I thought you were seconding. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Now, is there any member of the community who wishes to make a statement around planning 1, the pump shed for the Northern Midlands irrigation scheme on 1440 Saundridge Road, Cressy? No? Okay, planning 2 is the front boundary fence at 11A Smith Street. Is there anybody from the community who wishes to make a statement? No? Right, planning 3. The draft amendment 17-2024 to allow storage on 20 John Street, Western Junction. Is there any member of the community who wishes to make a statement about planning 3? Okay, right. Planning 1. Can I have a mover and a seconder for planning 1, and then we'll discuss it? Councillor Terrett and Councillor Adams. Right, the recommendation is, as you see here, I'm not going to read it all, I'll read the first bit. That application plan 240047 to develop and use the land at 1440 Saundridge Road, Cressy for a pump shed be approved subject to the following conditions, and all the conditions are in that agenda. Any discussion? Councillor Andrews.
Can I ask a question of the senior planner? Does he know why it's taking so long? It seems it's 2 years to build. It seems an inordinate length of time.
Sorry, no, I don't know why that timeline. No.
Councillor Archer.
Look, I understand the importance of the irrigation scheme, but I consider if this was a private development, there'd be no need for a pump shed to be 12 metres high, 9 metres high. And even though there are other infrastructure here like power lines and other buildings a lot lower, I just can't see how this building needs to be so large. And I don't think the answer I received earlier saying with the gantries inside was needed. It's a situation where a lot of pump sheds have been built around Tasmania. None of them have needed to be this high. So I consider it is a poor design, and I'd like the company who has irrigation to go back and come up with a lower structure. So I'm going to vote against it simply on that fact.
Councillor Goss.
I just a question for our Ms. Brickman, just about rates on this property. Will they be included in rates? Is it what? I'm not sure who the land is. Is it on private land or their own land or? And I just had this question before. Probably I just like the information on that. If not now,
Can I suggest, Councillor Goss, though, it'll have no bearing whatsoever on the
no.
agenda
I think
item.
it's important that we bring that up also. It's not mentioned in the report, and it's something that probably needs to be there.
Councillor Terrett.
I hear Councillor Archer's concern about the height of the building, but the permissible height in that area is 12 metres. And often we may not agree with the design, but if it's permissible within the planning, as a planning authority, we do have requirements there. I note that there is, in relation to the landscape and the scenery, there are power lines in that general area, and the provision for putting landscaping is certainly needed, and I fully support that. But it is compliant, and it is the building will be in eucalyptus green, which means that hopefully will not be standing out too much. It's pretty hard when you've got a building at that height, but it is compliant, and therefore I feel that it should be approved.
Councillor Adams.
Yeah, I support that, it is compliant, and of course there's power lines there because it needs power to use the pump, and access is also there, so these are like communication towers and other things that are a part of the essential infrastructure to keep driving of industry, in this case our agricultural future.
Okay, Councillor McCullough.
I was just going to, is there any reason it can't be moved slightly? There's the scenic, I just don't see the scenic road corridor, but it's in the middle of it. Is there any reason it can't be moved 50 metres or something? Or is it,
I think to move it any further away would bring it closer to the power lines within their easement, which wouldn't be allowed.
All right, I'll put the recommendation. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against?
Aye.
Councillor Archer and Councillor Goss. Against. The motion's carried. Okay, planning 2 is the front boundary fence for 11A Smith Street, Longford. You've already done anything.
I'll move.
Councillor Adams is moving, Councillor McCullough is seconding. Any discussion? Councillor Terrett.
This particular fence will be a major change to Smith Street. Whilst I can understand Tuesday having a requirement for a fence, it will be quite stark in its presence in the street and the streetscape. And whilst I note that it's certainly compliant, I think there is a need for a note on this particular application to do some landscaping, or at least speak to council ways of softening the fence as such. It'll be a target for graffiti because of the sheer size of the fence. I hope it doesn't, but often these large fences, stretching the length of the Tuesday property in Smith Street, will be a major eyesore unless it's softened by either landscaping or maybe even a mural or some way of softening the fence, because it will be quite a stark fence, which such large length, that we should do something. And whilst I'll be supporting the motion, I do see the need that we do need to do some landscaping and to soften the whole fence.
Can I just ask the General Manager to add that a note be added? Do we need to have that in the recommendation?
Yes, Madam Mayor. I think there was also a suggestion about perhaps a letter as well could be written rather than
Yeah, the suggestion was rather than a note, I would term it a separate covering letter.
And we need to have that as an item. So when that's in, I'll read this first part. The recommendation is that that application planning 240049 to develop and use the land at 11A Smith Street, Longford, for a front boundary fence be approved subject to the following conditions. 1, the endorsed plans, the use and development must be substantially in accordance with the endorsed documents, and the boundary fence details are all there. Right, and I just have a look at the addition. So what should we write? Sorry, Councillor.
Because I was asking, can't we make it a permanent condition and they can appeal if they want to? Because they won't, I don't think they would appeal it if everybody's in, it's not a major issue, planning out a fence. I would have thought we could put it as a permanent condition.
Well, I think if the officers have indicated that it can't be a condition, would that be correct? And they could go to appeal? It's not something that
Go to appeal.
officers would advocate that we create a situation to go to appeal when there's perhaps another way forward.
But then, sorry, they'd have to appeal this, which I don't think they would. And we get planning out, because we're strongly recommending it, we're giving them what they want. I would have thought that we make the onus on them thing. We can probably always retract if we want to, but I think we should be fairly forthright on our approach to have the fence planted out. It's probably 150 metres of fencing.
I think we, as council, need to be, I think, clear on what kind of planting it's looking at, you know, whether it's trees or whether it's creepers, for example. Do you want to say?
Yeah, through you, Madam Mayor. With regards to this site in particular, for the criteria that needs to be considered in terms of justifying a condition like that, you would basically be needing to instill that that the dominant streetscape is vegetation before fences, which in this circumstance, in this particular case, is not the case. So essentially what you'd need to be, to support something like that, I would think that you would need to be able to demonstrate that it was a reasonable condition to impose on a permit if there were other examples of that being the dominant streetscape feature. And in this particular section of Smith Street, it's all fences. There's no vegetation before the fences.
Because it's actually an existing hedge almost.
Yeah, that's the only one.
Yeah,
That's what I think.
but that's been there since I was a
plans.
kid, so it's actually it's work in progress. If you like, it's still going.
So make a
Yeah.
comment.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
provide the advice.
So the concern of the council will be put in.
Sorry, Councillor Adams, yes. Right, you've spoken, Councillor Adams. Councillor Archer, you haven't spoken. Yes, you have. Sorry.
On this one.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, Councillor. No, you haven't. Beg your pardon. Beg your pardon.
Look, as I said before in the workshop, I think basically for that length of fence, I mean, obviously if it was a brick wall, we probably wouldn't be arguing. But so it's something that's very difficult because there's so many different types of fence in that street. I think I support it, but I have a understanding that Tuesday will work with us in regards to landscaping. Obviously there's issues in regards to underground infrastructure that will have to be dealt with. They also have hedges on other streets in Longford, like Archer Street, so they have a commitment to the landscape, I believe, and I think if we write a letter to them, they will endeavour to soften the obviously long length of fence. But I think one of the issues is the colour of the fence. It's got to be a colour that's not too dominant, and that's obviously something I think Tuesday should be requested to look into as well.
Sympathetic colour. So we need some wording for the letter, and then so that the mover and seconder can.
We need the words, you think?
If we're going to add it as a part of the, it's a note, yeah. So it needs to be part of the recommendation.
Yeah, the note would be that council requests Tuesday to consider ways of softening the fence through vegetation.
And sympathetic colour. And sympathetic colour. Yes, yes.
If I may, in their application response to an information request, they have stated that the proposal will be timber-like boards with regular openings, and that it will be neutral palette as the colouring. So they have, yes.
Okay, so I need to ask Councillor Adams and McCullough, are you prepared to have this bit added in?
Yes.
Okay, Councillor Goss.
Just interesting in the report that the heritage advisor, because this is a heritage area, had no problems with the fence, but all the fences in Smith Street are all vertical boards. I couldn't find one with a horizontal board in that went up and down the street, and I really thought I couldn't really understand how the heritage advisor could say that it blended in when it doesn't blend in at all, because no other fences in that street with horizontal boards. So I thought that was really, really interesting that they can make some decisions like that.
Okay, I'll put the recommendation. All those in favour? Against? Carried.
Councillor Andrews has to come back in.
Oh, yes, please. Yes, please. Okay, planning 3, we have a recommendation that under section 38(2)A of the Land Use Planning and Approvals Act 1993, council as a planning authority decide to agree to the amendment to modify clause NORS 1.5.6 by adding the words or 20 John Street, Western Junction, folio of the register 150770/5, to the qualification column of the storage use class in the discretionary category, so that it reads storage. If at 74 Evandale Road, Western Junction, folio of the register 150770, 86 Evandale Road, Western Junction, folio, the numbers are there, 2 Translink Avenue, Western Junction, the folio numbers, or 20 John Street, Western Junction, folio of the register 150770/5. And that under section 40F2A of the Land Use Planning and Approvals Act 1993, council as a planning authority certified draft amendment 172024 of the Northern Midlands local provisions schedule as meeting the land use planning schedule criteria. Okay, councillor Adams is moving, councillor McCullough is seconding. Any discussion? Councillor Goss.
It's just interesting that I support the motion. It's interesting, all this property is on the Evandale Main Road. You would think that they would have businesses there which probably wouldn't have storage, have things where they got customers coming into them. So I thought it was really interesting they want to put that forward, but it's their land. I suppose they can do what they like to do, but you think they'd be more prominent sites to get people driving past to come in, rather than just having storage up there. Thank you.
Councillor Terry.
I share the similar concerns. It's on a street which is leading from the airport, which gives you the first impression of Tasmania, and you're leaving the airport, you're seeing potentially under this category fuel storage, and there are other things that were in this storage, under this storage category, which just doesn't give you a good streetscape or representation of what Launceston and the Northern Midlands is actually about. It is their land, they could do storage, but I think what we're actually approving here could be much broader than what we actually anticipate. And if you look at that storage category, and I think during the workshop, some of those activities would raise concern if you had those storage, the type of storage available. And if I can ask, through you, Madam Mayor, to the planner, the types of things that can be stored there.
Use of land for storage of or wholesale of goods and may incorporate distribution, that is the definition. Examples include boat and caravan storage, self-storage, contractor's yard, freezing and cool storage, liquid fuel depot, solid fuel depot, vehicle storage, warehouse and woodyard.
Okay, I will now put the recommendation. All those in favour? Against?
Yes.
Councillor Terrett's against. The motion's carried. We'll now break for our meal break and, move out of planning, beg your pardon. Councillor Adams, Councillor McCullough. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Planning. Okay, we're going to, let's just let people know who are listening that we'll be half an hour having a meal break. Item 14.2, Local Government Association of Tasmania, the Legat 26th of July 2024 General Meeting and Annual General Meeting. There's a recommendation there. The Council, in relation to the Local Government Association of Tasmania General Meeting on the 26th of July, delegate myself as Mayor to vote as follows. And it's a motion. 2.1 is the only one we're going to need to have a decision on. The proposed amendment to the pensioners' rate remissions guidelines. And Council, this Burnie City Council is seeking a decision that Legat calls upon the state government to amend its pensioner rates remission guidelines to benefit pensioners who receive an eligible card within a financial year post the 1st of July. And they've outlined all the reasonings and so forth in the paper. Councillor Goss, you're moving that.
Move that motion, thank you.
And Councillor Lambert seconding.
Sorry, is that to vote for that motion?
Now, is that to vote for the motion?
I'm voting for the motion, yes.
Yes. And
Yes, voting for the motion.
for the motion?
Yes.
For, yes, for. Any discussion? No, I'll put the recommendation. All those in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. 4.3, Longford Garden Club Constitution. And the recommendation, the council endorsed council officers' advice to the Longford Garden Club regarding the addition of the following suggested clause in their constitution. In the event, better keep reading because it's got. In the event of dissolution of the Longford Garden Club, all assets of the club shall be sold, and after settlement of debts, any funds then remaining shall be held in trust by the Northern Midlands Council for a period of 5 years. After such time, if the Longford Garden Club is unable to reform, said monies to be used for council gardens at the discretion of council. Councillor Goss, you're moving that?
I just want to go back to the last item because I actually moved to 2.1. I didn't move the rest of the piece. They weren't mentioned.
The rest.
The only bit you read out was for both bits.
Yes.
I've just got a few discussion points about on the next.
Yeah, I just need to let you know, Councillor Goss, all the rest are just for noting. We don't get to discuss
I'd
them.
like to have a discussion on those. That's what I'd like to do.
We go back? We can go back if everyone's happy with that, okay?
Okay.
Yep.
I just went through and looked at the minutes and I know it's up for discussion, some of these things at the meeting, and I thought the mayor might have not so much information on them, but the things that I picked up, the bit they're going to item 3.1, the work health and safety review, that's really got a lot to do with what we're going through at the council at the moment, and I really think that it'd be important that NMC had some input into that discussion. And that's something I think is probably really, really important. I don't know if we need to discuss about what they need to talk about, but I really think that our mayor should speak to that from our council about that, because as far as workplace health and safety, we've got a lot of things that we probably need to look at, and that's something I think is probably really important. The next thing I'd really like to ask about was that in the waste and resource recovery bit, which is 14.11, in that little section there's a bit on the tyre stewardship final report.
Yes.
There's no final report in there. It'd be really good because we've got a big issue with tyres in our municipality, and I think it'd be really important for us to actually see that final report. And 4.12, it mentioned in there that they got $4 million for CTV in rural communities, and I just wondered how NMC is rigging any of that funding for our communities, what that means, but they did say they got $4 million available in there, and it hasn't been allocated yet, I don't think, from what I could read in the report, but maybe the officer might have some more information there for me.
Madam Mayor, some of that has been allocated. I'm not sure what the amount, but I can check on that. We've actually put our hand up of that. I think they may be in the second or third round now, and we are pursuing funding through that.
Okay, be great to hear that. I'll just make sure there was nothing else there I wrote a note on. No, that was all. That's those 2 points there. Sorry for taking up your time.
And our council officers and myself, we've been a part of this review of the work health and safety, so we've definitely got our voice in there already. but I'm happy to speak at the council, at the meeting if you wish.
It would be very,
And the tyres are certainly being looked at by the Northern Tasmanian ARC, whatever that stands for, the Northern Regional Group. Yes, yes. And the final report, I think there's a link in there to the report on, if you look at it online, there's a link to the
I've
report.
got no access to that though.
Yeah.
The person that got the report from them
Yeah.
would have access to it, but I haven't. I'd like to see it.
Maybe we can send that link out to everybody. Right,
Thank you.
you're happy? All right, we'll move on to the next because we've already moved the motion. So, and yeah, all the other items are just for noting.
I'll move the garden club.
Garden Club, Councillor Adams, Councillor Andrews.
I'll just speak
And
and say
yes.
that it's normal, organisations, they just want to make sure that they don't know that. I think they're still going very strong. They've been going 100 years or more, and it's an institution, and it's the same weekend as Blooms, and they have in the hall, and that's wonderful.
You do a wonderful job. All right, I'll put the recommendation. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Corporate Services, monthly report, financial statement. The recommendation is that council receive and note the monthly financial report for the period ending the 30th of June 2024 and authorise budget 2023-24 alterations as listed in item 4. I'm a mover and a seconder. Please, Councillor Andrews and Councillor Goss. Any questions, discussion? I'll put the recommendation. All those in favour? Against? Carried. 15.2, the making of rates and adoption of the annual plan. And the recommendation, I won't read through it all, is that council endorse the amended rate in the AAV to reflect the 3.75% rate increase as determined at the 24th of June meeting. And then down the bottom, where did I see it? Right along down. And B, approve and adopt the 2024-25 annual plan pursuant to section 71 of the Local Government Act 1993. Councillor Goss, you're moving. And Councillor McCullough, you're seconding. Any discussion from anyone? Okay, I'll put the recommendation. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Took a long time. No?
I'll ready back.
Yeah, I'm just looking for it here. Here. Oh, I better go down this way. Mark, I should have. Here we go. 16.1, the old levy bank pathway at Longford, the ceiling halted. The recommendation is that council note that council should endorse this decision, section B2 of the 22nd of April 2024 decision of council, would be overturned and rescind part of the 22nd of April decision of the council, minute reference 240122, namely B2, footpath along the old levy bank from the intersection with Latour Street to Union Street, Longford, of B, and C, note that installation works relating to item B2 have not yet commenced. A mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Adams and Councillor Terrett, any discussion? Councillor Andrews.
Can I ask a question, please? In 2.1 it says proposed design changes for the levy bank, I presume. What changes? It says that it's going to be left as a gravel path.
There's no design changes to that. We're looking at still spending the funding because there's extra funds available. They're looking at trying to get the footpath down Union Street.
Yep. So what will happen, if anything, to the levy bank path? Nothing. Stay as is?
Yeah, as is.
No lighting, nothing?
I'd like to keep it as it is.
Yeah.
Councillor McCullough.
Yeah, I'd like to thank all parties for their rectification of this. I think it's a really good decision. And I think it shows that if you work in a fluid and flexible manner, then probably the best results occur. And I think this is a great decision for the community.
No further discussion. I'll put the recommendation. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Right, moving to a closed council. Councillor Adams and Councillor McCullough.
wait till people leave, for those that need to.